Hello and welcome back to a new video. Today I'm going to be talking about the possibility of slowing down, stopping, or even reversing aging in human beings. And there's two reasons for that. The first is that I recently read Andrew Steele's Ageless. It's a recent publication. You can find it in like the new non-fiction section of like your Barnes and Noble or whatever. And the second thing is, well, out of every single transhumanist science and technology, I'm pretty sure that anti-aging research is the one that the majority of people, whether or not they're transhumanists, whether or not they're with the whole shebang of mind uploading and advanced mechanical prosthetics and CRISPR gene editing and all that shit, would be on board with. Because let's face it, growing old sucks, and you don't have to be old in order to know that. You just have to see your friends and family wither away. Your grandmother no longer being able to remember your face. Your father losing his ability to walk. It fucking sucks, and it's right now an unfortunate fact of the human condition. Evolution primes species for reproductive success, and the path that mankind took was being able to reproduce at a younger age, and therefore anything beyond the typical reproducing age, which would be like mid to late teens, early 20s in the wild, which is basically the only one that actually matters when you think about this stuff, because that's when the majority of evolution's influence on mankind, when we were in the wild and not like in civilization, wasn't good enough, would have exerted its influence. So evolution, primes us to reproduce at that age. There's kind of a build-up of, hold on, these ape men need to be able to move around. They need to be able to form some tribes and therefore have the mental capacity to do so. Like, you can't just have babies reproducing, even though that would be faster, because they would be very unlikely to survive in the wild. Now, a lot of people think that evolution is all about survival, but it's not. It's about survival until you can reproduce. And once you reproduce, that's it. That's all that needs to happen. Like, if human beings exploded, like literally just burst into a bloody mess at 35, that probably wouldn't have affected, the natural history of our species all that much. I mean, the history of civilization would certainly be very different, but I think the natural history would have been more or less the same, especially since 35 was the average life expectancy of human beings, mainly due to the massive amount of infant mortality that took place in the natural world, and unfortunately even in society due to, well, medicine just not being advanced enough. And that's basically what this whole endeavor is up against, the entirety of evolution. Evolution says, hey, after a certain amount of decades, your body's going to break down because by this point you should have fucked and had a baby, and there's no longer any need to exert all that energy and resources into keeping you healthy and fit and fresh and capable. And now we're saying, that kind of fucking sucks. I don't like that. let's do something different. I mean, that's more or less the entire history of transhumanism, isn't it? Oh, come the fuck on. These damn bots make me want to fucking, adhere to the philosophy of the Unabomber, I swear. The Industrial Revolution and its consequences have been a disaster for mankind. Anyways, oh, I really... Wow, I am fucking terrible at this game, holy shit. Anyways, and the reason we age is due to a multitude of factors. There's the degrading of mitochondria, there's a degrading of telomeres, those caps at the end of chromosomes that prevent the actual DNA from decaying. There's the buildup of plaque and sentient cells. And these sentient cells normally would, release signals to call, like, I think T cells or whatever, to basically kill them, like, hey, I'm gonna be a burden to the body, kill me so that the larger organism doesn't suffer. And sometimes that just doesn't work, and over time it doesn't work to the point where it becomes an issue. If they ever remake Osmosis Jones, I want to see the suicide by cop scene. I want to see like an old cell beg Osmosis Jones to kill him. Do it, Warner Brothers, you sacks of shit. Anyways, and like a lot of the famous ailments for mankind, cancer, dementia, diabetes, that sort of stuff, tend to be either caused or correlated with aging. And yet, aging itself hasn't really been a focus in the medical sciences until a few decades ago. Instead, it's mainly been on these individual problems. And these are terrible problems. They've killed multitudes of people, and of course they should be solved, but the thinking is that if you're able to keep the body at like peak fitness, that being around, your early 20s to 30s, let's say, then the likelihood of you developing these terrible ailments will decrease significantly. Hold on, need to concentrate. Oh crap, really? We're screwed. The likelihood of these problems cropping up would decrease significantly because your body would be able to self-regulate in the way that prevents them from coming up right now. Like, I'm 26 years old. I don't have dementia. I don't have arthritis. I don't have cancer, presumably. And the reason for that is because my body is able to take care of itself. But as I get older, as things start to break down, as plaque starts to build up in my brain, as cells that should be done away with start building up, yeah, I'm gonna be facing a myriad of issues. Now, unfortunately, there doesn't seem to be any solution that we know of that's able to take care of each individual aspect of aging, every problem that crops up. Although there are some solutions that do have a pretty substantial overlap. But as of right now, I think the biggest problem when it comes to anti-aging research is people's perception of aging. Now, I'm probably going to be disagreed with by many transhumanists with my assertion that I don't think aging is a disease. This was actually a topic of a paper I had to write for a bioethics class on whether or not aging should be considered a disease. And I said it shouldn't be, and my reasoning was that if you put like a bunch of people in sterile rooms and you're able to tend to all their physical, nutritional, and psychological needs, so they wouldn't injure themselves, they wouldn't get sick, they wouldn't go crazy or anything like that, they would still age. Aging is, alas, mandatory, unlike, say, the flu, unlike HIV. And I think the reason that so many people want aging to be classified as a disease is so that there would be increased funding and effort into fixing it. Now I'll state right now that even if I don't think that aging is a disease, I absolutely do think that, multitudes of millions of dollars, if not billions, multitudes of billions, fuck it, should be poured into research into fixing it. Because aging fucking sucks. I have no problem with aging not being a disease, but all this time and effort and money being put into fixing it for the same reason that, like, fractured bones aren't a disease. But I'm fine if, like, billions of dollars are spent trying to find a way to mend bones faster than what's normally capable. I'm pretty sure that Heavy is a bot. Yeah, that Heavy's a bot. No one turns around that fast because of a fucking scout.
The enemy has received additional time.
But beyond just whether or not aging is a disease, there's a problem of, I'm pretty sure those two are also bots. There's a problem of the fact that many people just don't see a reason to fix aging. They think, oh, it's, a natural part of life. People have been here too long. It's time to shut down this story and let new ones begin. And when it comes to, like, recognized disease, the majority of people are able to say that, yeah, we should definitely get rid of cancer, that sucks, we should get rid of AIDS, that sucks, we should get rid of dementia, that sucks, we should get rid of diabetes, that sucks. But I think for, like, the same reason, whether or not they're able to voice it, that I don't consider aging a disease. I'm just gonna leave. Fuck these people. They don't think aging is a problem, period. Now, if there is one argument against curing aging that I can think of, it's basically like, I guess you can say the argument from Cyberpunk. Like, what if this technology advances, but everything else stays the same? Like, if you have a modicum of love for the United States of America, this next sentence, this next phrase, should send shivers down your spine. Are you ready? An immortal Mitch McConnell. Yeah. Now you understand the scope of the problem. It's not like that asshole is ever going to be voted out of the Senate. He's going to have to die in order to stop being elected. And if aging is effectively cured, then, let's put me on an FBI watch list. The only way the problem would be solved is through a bullet. Or maybe other transhumanist technologies will advance to a ridiculous degree, and even that wouldn't work. Like any new endeavor into the medical sciences that radically change society, anti-aging research is gonna require people to just be better. And I'm genuinely not sure how viable that is. If you've watched my TF2 highlights, you know exactly what's coming up. Wasn't quite the humorous event that I was hoping it would be. Those guys are way too on point. Which is good, because that means we win. But it's also bad, because it means I can't air blast people off. Oh, here we go. There we go. I love it when that happens. It's just funny. But outside of that, I'm a bit hard-pressed to think about what the consequences would be. And I would argue that, you know, the problem of an immortal Mitch McConnell encompasses a myriad of, you know, related issues, such as the fact that older generations tend to be more entrenched in their views and not allow or desire even remote change, even change that ultimately isn't detrimental to anyone. You know, I'm just gonna say it, Widowmaker NGs are, about... I like Widowmaker NGs about as much as I like pedophiles. Anyways, now, one of the big problems with the general perception of fixing aging is that aging is something that has happened throughout all of human history. If you lived long enough to age, you aged. And therefore, people, you know, fall victim to, like, the natural, argument from nature fallacy. Where, like, oh, it's natural, so it must be good, and trying to fight against that is unnatural, and therefore it's bad and undesirable. Like, it's hard to imagine a world where people didn't age, simply because it's such a major part of the human experience. But I think that if the option was there, if it were possible for people to decide, hey, I want to live, let's say, an extra 400 years, that would start to change. I mean, I guess you can say a lot of sci-fi technologies seem undesirable until people are able to tangibly experience their benefits. But why cure aging at all? Why not just let people die? I mean, do we really need those extra few hundred years? And I would actually say yes. Since what is the reason why we fix any other disease that plagues us? Well, one argument could be they cause us much misery and pain. Sure, but why not, hey, we've read your charts and you have cancer, so you cock a gun and point it at them and pull the trigger. Why not do that? It would certainly save a lot of time. It would save a lot of money. I mean, no one can have cancer if no one's alive to have cancer. Am I right? Well, it's because we understand that people want to live. People have a desire to stay alive, to continue breathing, to continue to experience this, you know, strange and sometimes wonderful world that we call Earth. This is, after all, our only chance at life. And even if you are inclined to believe in an afterlife, fuck this game. Even if you are inclined to believe in an afterlife, you know that or you'd likely believe that, unless you believe in reincarnation, the afterlife isn't going to be like the one here on Earth. So it's still your one chance to experience this planet. Well, we almost got it. But what if people's lives get cut short? After all, what if you get cancer in your 40s and you're like, no, I want to be able to retire. I want to be able to see my grandkids grow up. Some children get cancer when they're even younger, when they're like 10 or 12. So no, I want my kids to be able to grow up and experience teenagehood, to graduate, to hopefully find a career that interests them, to find love, to settle down and have kids of their own. That's why we don't just pull the trigger on anyone who comes down with an illness, even though such a eugenics project would probably, over time, minimize the amount of illness substantially compared to what we face right now. The problem is that everything someone wants to do, all of the wonderful experiences the world has to offer, are so plentiful that it's almost impossible to experience them in just the general, like 85, I think, is the average year lifetime. Like, let's for a second imagine that we live in like the Star Trek utopia where money no longer exists and we have replicators that are able to solve all of our wants and desires, and we have holodecks and all that shit. The amount of great works there's to read, the amount of, you know, movies that there is to watch, games that there is to play, places there is to go, experiences that there is to have, are way more than even someone with all that time on their hands could engage with. And I say that it's a lot better for people to be able to live hundreds and hundreds of years and being able to do everything they might want to do than to grow old, become unable to engage in many of the wonderful facets of mankind, and to eventually die because of it. And again, you know, the reason I think so many people are generally against this notion is because it's the only option available. They've just become accustomed to it. Could've been a little faster there, Shpee. But who knows, maybe one day we'll be able to live an indefinite lifespan, and we'll see what people do with their time. I mean, I'm not saying that everyone's going to become like a self-actualized Renaissance man. It's like, oh, I have the ability to read all of the classics and become a master painter and memorize the periodic table and go into medicine. I mean, some people are probably just gonna spend their life goofing off, and that's fine, you know, if it's not hurting anyone, if we have the resources available, then why not? It's your life, you can live it as you want. Now, I guess a really interesting thing is this might come in conjunction with other technologies like Elon Musk's Neuralace. You know, could potentially some augment to the brain allow people to... I hate snipers. I'm the only one. Nope, I'm not. Someone else is. I hate when I'm the only one. You know, basically, in our world, it's maybe a few hours, but in their world, it's like multiple weeks. And they spend the time having a ton of different experiences in the virtual world that feel super real. You know, would that have any impact on this argument? And I think it might actually would. You know, in that case, there really wouldn't be that much of a time limit on somebody's head in order to do something. But that's, of course, predicated on the idea that such a technology would exist, that it would be available to as many people as possible, since if it's only available to the, like, wealthy and elite, then who the fuck cares? And if it's only available in, like, you know, scarce clinical trials and exist in, like, some lab on some college campus somewhere, then, you know, who cares even more or even less? Bye, medic. I love that. Oh. Oh, damn it, I didn't have my primary out in time. Oh, I actually capped first. That's a bit disappointing. I thought we were doing pretty good. Oh well. But then there's another side of it. There's not what everyone is able to do in a life, but whether or not there'll be more. I mean, think about all the stuff that is coming up. All the movies, video games, books, music, plays, scientific discoveries, philosophical notions, any painting, any sculpture. Like, there's inevitably going to be some amazing things for mankind to engage with in the coming years, and if you die of old age, or I guess die in general, but we're specifically focused on age here, then you're going to miss out on it. I mean, how many gamers have died before Half-Life 3 comes out? That number increases each day. Seriously, fuck that sniper. I hate him. Maybe I should go... I'll go Kunstman Sniper. Let's have some fun. And that's something that can't just be addressed by, like, whether or not there's some technology that lets people perceive or experience a set of time within a set of time. I mean, that's completely predicated or based on, like, the fact that there's going to be something new. Fucker. That was actually a good shot. Now, one actual advantage this might have, you know, anti-aging research could be in history. I mean, it's a simple fact that, like, at some point, everyone who lived to experience an event dies. You know, we're probably gonna live to see the death of the last person who was able to experience a Second World War in any capacity, be it on the battlefield or in any of the multitude of camps that have existed, like internment camps or concentration camps or gulags, or just in the civilian life, what it was like to see the young men go out to war and what everyone's thoughts were, what the trials and tribulations were. And even though, as time goes on, we're able to more and better archive things, we're able to keep better records and more of them, information is going to get lost. And I say this even though it's also better to be able to look back at a historical event when it comes to understanding as much as possible than to be living in the middle of it. And this is just for something that's modern. I mean, the Roman Empire at its height, the Egyptian Empire at its height, the Vikings, ancient Chinese dynasties, Victorian London, Revolutionary France. You know, those are amazing periods in human history that we simply do not have a living eyewitness account of, because they've all either grown old or died for another reason. That's for being a jerk. And that could happen to our day as well. I mean, if anti-aging research or any means of preserving the human mind and the memories that come with it don't come into fruition, there'll be a time when the last person who remembers living through the coronavirus is alive, or the last Hong Kong protester, or the last... I mean, a lot of these two are bots. 1, 2... Alright, it's Brap 2, Brap 3, where's the first? Alright, where's 2 then? There's 3, 1, there's 1, 2. Is he on their team? No? Oh. Damn cheaters. I don't even care anymore. I mean, fucking fix your game, Valve. I mean, make it like $1. Just for a month, $1, and that'll weed so many of these assholes out. You can make it free to play again. Just do something. I mean, I think it would be pretty neat if there was a living record of all the major moments in human history, all these historical events, whether they're ones that people are actually happy to be a part of, or, given all the major historical events that have happened in the last year alone, people might say, I don't like living through major periods of human history, that kind of fucking sucks. I'm leaving. Good grief. Fix your fucking game, Valve. Now, even though older people tend to be kind of entrenched in their ways of thinking, there is another advantage to having people live longer, and that's the expertise are able to survive for longer. If you've seen any of my Let's Plays of Fallout 4, you'd know I have a bit of a bone to pick with the Institute and the fact that there's this character Kellogg who was given all of these cybernetics that make him live longer. Now, far be it from me to say that Bethesda should hire a science advisor for their Fallout games, but that's not how anti-aging technology is going to work. But anyways, he's able to live hundreds of years, and it turns out that when Sean took over the Institute, he canceled the project, and his reasons was, we need to preserve humanity. Now, I'm not gonna shit on Fallout 4 for too much, but I will say one of my big criticisms for that was, you're a team of super scientists living in the post-apocalyptic wasteland. There's not exactly a plethora of schools and colleges and other institutions of learning to pick out the best and brightest minds from. In fact, I wouldn't even be surprised if the majority of characters in Fallout don't know how to read or do anything beyond the most basic arithmetic. And so it would be more advantageous for them to allow their scientists or people to live hundreds and hundreds of years so that the knowledge and expertise can be preserved, at least until society rebuilds itself and we can have actual schools. But in the game they're actually against that, so basically ML is shit at raiding and he needs to stop being the lead raider for these games. Now that's a rather extreme example, but it can apply in our world as well. If instead of every generation we need to retrain more physicists, more biologists, more mathematicians and chemists and psychologists, we can just have not just the ones that already exist, but also the ones that we train up. We don't have to choose one or the other. We can have even more advanced experts in these fields. The amount of intelligent people who are able to solve the trials and tribulations of humanity and unlock the mysteries of the universe would increase more and more over time, because we wouldn't be losing these great minds as fast. It's, I think, probably one of the biggest advantages of anti-aging research, and one that unfortunately doesn't seem to come up much in discussions or arguments in favor of it. Of course, a lot of the arguments for and against it is due to the capabilities of, whether or not we'd actually be able to slow or reverse aging. And from what I understand is that it doesn't violate the laws of physics, and if it doesn't violate the laws of physics, then you can be fairly safe in saying it can happen. We have a shitty soldier wanting to hop around like that. Oh, fuck off. I mean, it is somewhat amusing, actually, that it's taken so long for there to be an interest in solving the issue of aging. Like, only in the last few decades, really, has there been any serious effort put into it, any actual speculation. Bow and arrow is so fun. But then again, isn't it the case that, like, a lot of things have kind of been overlooked by people until fairly recently? I mean, compared to the sum total of human history, it's been a fast fucking trek. In the last few decades alone, we've learned way more about why people age in general, rather than, yep, people get older. The specific causes of it, and we have managed to think of some solutions to some of the problems, so they aren't all-encompassing, and some of them have actual major drawbacks. It is a better start. It is a start compared to the nothing at all we had for basically the rest of history. So I do think that we might see some therapy, some medicines that would address some of aging in the coming years, but I guess the big question is, will we see anything soon enough that you and I can actually give a shit? I mean, if it's like 200 years later, we finally start to figure out aging to the point where we're slowing it and stopping it, then, I mean, alright, cool, I guess, but that's not gonna help me. Now, when it comes to aging, the general anti-aging, the general wisdom is like, live long enough to live forever. You know, push those years back, push that timeline back or further, whatever, to the point where you reach an exponential growth of years of life. And though it's not based on all too much, just the therapies and science that exists right now, I do think that it might be possible that we will actually reach that point. I don't go as far as Ray Kurzweil with the whole every bit of knowledge is exponentially growing or anything like that, but I do understand and see that science and technology moves faster as the years go on and the more advanced we become. You needed only to stop them for a few more seconds. God damn, the clutch is real. just a thunk. Oh, I'm way low health. Drop on the pallet. One kind of amusing related thing is that the Queen of England actually writes us. I'm not sure if it's completely personalized or if there's like a template that she signs, but she writes like letters to people who have lived to 100 years. And you could imagine how tedious that's going to be if anti-aging research takes off and is widely available to the people. Like, she's basically gonna have to sign a card for every citizen of her country. I think we'll see quite a few changes in society and traditions and stuff when that happens. I have no idea if arrows count as bullets. I really don't. But we need those Pyros down there solving this heavy medic butt buddy problem, like stat. For example, maybe birthdays aren't going to be such a big deal in such a scenario. Like, by the time it's like, oh, you're 346 years old, happy birthday, I guess. Maybe we'll start celebrating decades rather than years specifically. My sweet six... Oh, hey! I received a gift! Neat! Thanks, bro. Let's see what I got. Got a chocolate bar. Oh, ain't that something? I was talking about birthdays and here I get a gift. Ain't that something? Ah. Lost my train of thought. I mean, that never happens to me. It's always everyone else. Up there being friendly. They're fine. Oh, maybe arrows don't count as bullets. Fuck scouts. Maybe my sweet 16s aren't gonna be a thing. Maybe it'll be my sweet 66. It would really suck if like the drinking age is pushed back. You know, imagine you turn 21 on the very year that some dumb legislation is passed where we're moving it back to like 55 because people live so fucking long. That'd be absolutely stupid, especially since the actual reason for like the drinking age and stuff is based on the physiological and mental maturity of people rather than just an arbitrary number. But anyways, I think I've rambled on enough about this subject. I have nothing more really to say, nothing insightful or anything, so I hope you enjoyed the video, that I gave you something to think about and otherwise entertained you. Take care.